call me Martin. I've seen things you wouldn't believe. Things a boy shouldn't see. I was like any other kid. I didn't believe in the boogeyman. Then the world woke up to a nightmare.
Welcome to Steak Land, kid. Get your boots on, your guns ready. We're gonna put some distance between us and this place.
We were on our own now.
I think it did. You know, I met him. I was working on a film that he was acting in, and we sort of hit it off and had similar tastes in weird movies in a way, I think. And I think both of us, you know, he's a bit older than I am, but I think both of us were sort of in a similar point in our careers where we wanted to be doing more than we were, and decided to sort of do something about it. So with Mulberry Street, you know, he had written and I had been helping him on some of his scripts and giving him feedback, and we decided, you know, let's just do something together that I can direct, that you can star in, we can write together. That's how Mulberry Street started. So it was all very organic. I think it came from having a lot of similar tastes and also wanting to do things a little bit differently. And I think, you know, I sort of look at stories from a sort of a big outside structural sort of a way, and I think he is able to look at stories, I think because of his acting background and also because he reads a ton of books. I think he has a sort of a different way of understanding stories, and that they play off of each other in an interesting way. That was him, really. You know, we were trying to make another movie after Mulberry Street that was a bigger film, and it was sort of frustrating trying to get it going. And I think out of that frustration, we sort of met up, and I said, you know, why don't we try to do a web series, something that we could do, you know, a couple minutes a week, you know, do a chapterized thing that we could sort of shoot ourselves and do sort of in the Mulberry Street style, or we're just coming together and making something. And so we just started with that concept, and then it was kind of cool. The next morning, he sent me like the first 10 minutes or whatever of this movie as like the first web film, and then it branched out from there. You know, but I think it initially just started with that, like, you know, a guy and a kid. You know, he's teaching this kid. They're driving in a car. They got a vampire in the trunk, and that was literally the concept, and it sort of just blew up from there in a way. I think, you know, Mulberry Street in a way, I think people took as a take on zombies, and it was a little bit. It was sort of our nod to that by trying to come up with our own creature. And I think sort of the same thing here. You know, I think at the time, you know, zombie movies were done to death, and when we started doing Mulberry Street, there weren't that many zombie films, but we loved zombie films, so we went out and tried to make our take on a zombie film. And by the time it came out, there was like, you know, a million zombie movies at the time. It was sort of right in the middle of the zombie craze getting popular again, and Romero had a new movie, and then sort of the same thing here. You know, we said, you know, let's move away from zombies, you know, but no one's really doing vampire movies, and definitely no one's doing them in a scary way or treating them like, you know, something to be afraid of. It's more of like a, you know, relate to them, and it's more of a social thing. True Blood had just started, and then I think the first movie wasn't out, you know, so it was a different landscape then. And then by the time we started shooting Steak Land, it was kind of the same thing. All of a sudden, it was a vampire craze, and they were everywhere. But, you know, I think what appealed to us sort of is that, like zombies, they used to be human, and so you can sort of treat them as a real character, and it's not just a monster that exists in the story to be scary, you know, but you can sort of talk about bigger issues, social issues, and human issues in a way, but do it within the genre. We were writing this around the time of the election, presidential election 2008, and the Tea Party was just starting, and I think you were seeing a really interesting thing in American politics where the country was sort of hitting a divide. But I think in a way we wanted to we wanted to make a monster movie and a creature movie, but we also wanted to deal with things that are scary in real life. And in that case, it was. Sorry, my dog is coughing. In that case, we sort of dealt with what was like kind of very scary to us, which is the Tea Party. Well, it was weird. We wrote it, and then I want to say we wrote it. We finished it in I guess October, November, and at that point, we got the green light very quickly to do it. But we wanted to start shooting in summer, so in a way, we almost had to wait, for 2 or 3 seasons to pass. So it was an interesting process because we spent that whole time knowing we were going to make a film, but knowing we couldn't do it for 6 or 7 months. We spent that whole time. Nick made his own costumes, he made his own weapons, his props. We went out and bought that car used somewhere, and just started to pull all the props together and do it not in a rushed way, but in a very organic way of making sure we did the right thing. We did camera tests and used some of that footage in the movie, so it was kind of a cool, stretched out process. And then after about 6 months, we shot for 3 weeks for the first half of the film. Then we took off for 2 or 3 months, and then we came back and shot the second half of the film. We moved upstate New York. We waited for the winter time because we wanted the seasons to look very different. And so it was the shoot itself was long and stretched out because we wanted it to be that way. But I think from the day that we wrapped until the movie premiered, it was, less than a year after that.
I want to kill that thing.
Go with God.
Lock the door. How many of them things out there?
One, but she's really pissed off.